Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight as we dive into self-investment. There's so many questions about this. What is it? Why is it important? Why does it relate to current travel trends? And how do we get started? Thank you so much for joining us. This live speaker series is brought to you by Encore Retreats, which hosts these thought-provoking conversations monthly. And we also lead content-rich experiential retreats around the world. I'm Jennifer Sullivan, the co-owner and memory maker of Encore Retreats. And tonight's community conversation is going to be a little bit different because it's a conversation between my business partner and me. So allow me to introduce Lisa Waltuch, the content creator of Encore Retreats. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, everybody.
So Lisa, tell us why why we picked this topic.
Well, this is a topic that Jen and I are both very passionate about, and basically it's what prompted us to start Encore Retreats in the first place. So we're excited to be talking about it this evening.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to ask questions as we go along, so this can be more conversational. You can put them in the chat box. And we'll also send out a recording of the session via email within the next few days. So let's jump in and get started. So by definition, self-investment is taking a proactive approach to nurturing your potential, enhancing your capabilities, and ultimately leading a more fulfilling and purposeful life. So let's put that more simply. It means actively developing your potential, improving your skills, and living your most meaningful and satisfying life. So Lisa, can you help unpack that a little bit?
Yes, sure. I think from my opinion, and what I've seen out there, self-investment has morphed a little bit over time. It's been seen as, it has kind of a bad stigma of being selfish or self-indulgent. And I think that's from a more previous iteration of it. So in the past, it was kind of about pampering yourself, massages, mani-pedi, spa days. It's what I like to think of it as someone is doing something to you, whether they're massaging you or doing your nails. And I think that we've now added these two other levels. So that's passive. The intentional practices are things that you kind of engage in to improve yourself. So whether it's yoga, meditation, breath work, some kind of mind-body connection. So you're doing this on your own, or perhaps you're doing it in a class or with a guide. That is more of an intentional. So passive and then intentional. And now I think the newest part of this equation is the participatory practices. So this is one step further, where the actions and activities involve more participation. And you're developing as a person. You may be learning something. You may be learning something about yourself. You may be taking classes, courses, engaging with a coach, doing therapy, anything that is kind of identifying a certain need you have, or issue you have, or problem. It's trying to kind of work on that with a goal of learning, improvement, support, encouragement, collaboration.
Yeah, I get it. So I think people are really familiar with the term self-care, but that kind of is very different than self-investment. And self-investment kind of needs to be rebranded because it is more active and it is more engaged. Can you give us some examples to help make that distinction between self-care and self-investment?
Right. It's something that you do for yourself. So whether it's, a small thing like, you've been busy in the kitchen cooking dinner or something, and then afterwards you just take a walk. It's a time to give your mind a little space to wander, to think. It's some breathing room. I think as women, we spend so much time.
Sorry, this is self-investment or self-care?
Well, I personally think this is self-investment, because you will show up better if you've had a little bit of a rest. If we're just exhausting ourselves, taking care of other people, doing our job, doing emails at midnight and all of that stuff, that's depleting. And so I think I think we can think of this more broadly as self-investment, just giving ourselves a break, giving ourselves some time, giving ourselves some breathing room. All of those things are important. And I think we're increasingly realizing that we show up better if we're rested, if we've done something for ourselves.
And perhaps the term investment comes in because oftentimes it also includes asking for help, investing in a coach. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think that if you're struggling with something and need a little guidance or need someone to help you, if you're unable to identify something that's keeping you stuck or something that's blocking you, or you have a goal that you want, but you're just unable to get there, whether it's your own mind drama, whether it's your own lack of creativity and kind of finding yourself out of being stuck, and you need some guidance. I think that that engaging someone, whether it's a therapist, a coach, or even a supportive friend, to say, let me lean on you a little bit. Let's partner here. That's saying, I treasure myself. I know that I can get through this, but I want a partner. So it's just being proactive about what you need. And in many cases, it's being proactive. It's saying, look, I just need to go take a walk for 5 minutes. Look, I need to work with somebody to help me get through this time in my life. Look, I need a little bit more time for this deadline. Whatever it is, it's kind of self-advocacy, self-care, self-investment.
Yeah, great. You've touched on a little bit of the benefits, but can you go into a little bit more detail about why this is so important?
I do think that people are kind of running on fumes, working too much, just giving so much of themselves to others that they're forgetting about themselves. And even when they know they need a break, it's hard to take one. You feel guilty, or you feel ashamed, or you feel like you don't deserve it, or you feel like you should be able to juggle everything. You're Superwoman. I think we have so many stories that we tell ourselves about how we are in the world. And many times it does not involve spending money on ourselves, allowing ourselves extra time. Any of that stuff isn't part of our culture, really. We have a move culture. So if that's not part of it, and we feel judged by our spouses, our families, our parents, our friends, our employers, our whoever, we're not going to do it because it feels safer to stay in that place, even if you feel stuck. Mm-hmm. I think our brains tend to allow us to just keep with the status quo, and to step out of that and ask for help is difficult.
Yeah. You shared a statistic with me recently that less than 1% of the population establishes goals and actively works toward them. That's staggering. So when we do take this time to self-reflect and possibly even redirect our goals and create a roadmap, it leads to the more fulfilling and purposeful life.
Well, I think people are reacting more than being proactive. And I think that's what that statistic points to. So you may feel like the job that you're in is not the right job. And so maybe the first course of action is to look for other jobs. But that's kind of grasping. That's not saying, who am I? What do I really want? That is saying, oh, that job is out there. I'm going to apply for that. I see this in LinkedIn as an open job. I'm going to apply for that. I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but for many people, you're reacting to an offer instead of being proactive and saying, okay, what I want is this. And I've definitely found in my practice that if people are able to identify what they want, they are likely to get there. But the problem is people don't identify what they want. So someone may say, I don't love my job right now, but they need to take it a step further. I don't love my job right now because it's boring, or because my boss doesn't really understand me, or because the work doesn't feel meaningful. If you can identify the reason you don't like something, that's step one. Then if you can identify what you truly do like, that's step two. And then you can go out and find that job, or find that role, or that position, or that life. It doesn't have to be around your job. It can be around what you want in your life. I say to people, if you want to work 3 days a week and make a certain income, if you can identify what that is, you can get there. But you just need to identify what that is. And it may take some time, and it's certainly going to take research and time to talk to somebody, whether it's a mentor or somebody doing what you want to do or investigating who that is. But you will get there if you know what you want. So I think it's just tapping into ourselves. That is a self-investment too, making the time to figure out what we really want.
Yeah, and a lot of times that self-discovery process leads to more confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you
Because
feel
you feel
about,
proud. You feel proud.
yeah,
I know what I want and I went out and got it. Or
yeah.
I'm on the path to getting it. That makes you feel good. You're enjoying what you're doing.
What about the phrase skin in the game? You know, is it true that a big part of self-investment is paying for something because it gives it value and gives you motivation to do it properly?
I mean, we have seen this. I've seen it in people that I've worked with, and I've also seen it in myself. I know personally, if I sign up for something and it's a little painful to spend that money, I am going to get my money's worth. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to do all the exercises, and I'm going to finish it because that's important to me. I don't want to look back and have wasted that. That is what will cause me guilt and shame if I didn't take advantage of it. So I think there is something to be said for making a financial investment. You need to believe in it, but you need to be all in because that's the only way you're really going to get something out of it. And if you've already put that money down, then take advantage of it. There's some amazing teachers, tutors, mentors, coaches, guides out there. Take advantage of their wisdom.
Yep. We talked about how another way of looking at the benefits of self-investment is to look at what the lack of it leads to.
Right. I mean, it's burnout. It's, you're tired, you're frustrated, you feel like you could do more, you feel, like you feel a little hopeless.
Yeah.
And I think in order to get back to who you are as a person, and maybe you look back to who you were when the world seemed open to you, maybe it was right after college or even before that, you felt like you could do anything. Well, tap into that and then look at the opposite. The opposite is hopelessness.
And there's some medical research shows that when people aren't doing the self-investment activities, that it leads to chronic stress, which manifests itself in some really physical ways like colds and depression and heart disease, sleep issues, weight gain. So if you don't properly take care of yourself, your body is going to let you know it in really negative ways.
Right. Absolutely.
So this is a loaded question. How are women at self-investment?
We are not good. We are not good at all. We recently reviewed a study done by Dr. Alice Domar, who's the author of the bestseller Self-Nurture, Learning to Care for Yourself as Effectively as You Care for Others. And she's the director of Harvard's Mind Body Center for Women's Health. And the statistics are staggering. So I'm going to read some statistics here, which are 80% of women recognize the value of self-investment, yet few care for themselves as they care for others. So we know we're just not quite doing it. 76% of American women spend up to 10 hours daily caring for business partners, husbands, and or children, and less than 30 minutes a day doing nurturing activities just for themselves. So we're not good at this. We know, but we're just not making the time. 81% of the married women surveyed admitted that if they took even 1 hour off to do something for themselves, it would make them feel selfish, guilty, or anxious and unsettled. And more than a third, 38% of women say that digital devices have taken much of their self-nurture or alone time away. So there's a lot of scary numbers out there, I think, for how we look at ourselves.
We recently held a reunion of some of our retreat participants via Zoom, and those statistics reminded me of what Ginny said. But then she had her big aha moment. So I'm just going to play that right now.
It was hard for me to justify it. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have a lot of insecurities about not bringing in a paycheck because I've been very self-sufficient my whole life. And spending something on myself felt kind of selfish, and there was no, there's no promises in life that I was going to figure out what I needed. And my husband really surprised me and was like, our family owes it to you to help you figure out your own path in life. Like, every individual in this family is important, and you are too. And
God, that's so great.
yeah, I was so surprised. And he's definitely kind of a money miser. So I was really surprised that he was like, we love you and we pay for our kid to play baseball and our daughter to do ballet, and we should pay for you to do this. And then one of the moments during the retreat was I was like, well, I need to make money. I need to go back to one of these 2 jobs. And someone was like, does your husband say that you need to make money? And I was like, no, I don't know if he wants me to make money. And they were like, why don't you just call him and ask him? And I was like, okay. So I called him and he's like, we're fine. I'll let you know. And I was like, wait, what? And so it was just so like, because he is very stringent with money, and I was internalizing so much of that, like, I'm not worth it, we shouldn't do it, maybe I should be making money. And then when I actually was faced with asking him, he was like, of course you're worth it, of course we should do it, and was so happy and wanted to hear everything every night, was like, I love this for you. And I was so surprised that I had put so much on myself that wasn't actually true.
I mean, she says it all right there in that clip.
Yeah.
So you had one more statistic.
Yes. So women are supporting the right of other women to self-nurture. A majority of those surveyed, 89%, say they describe a woman who takes time each day to self-care as a woman with good esteem, who knows it's important to care for herself. So I think, that we again, I'm saying this for the 3rd time, we recognize that it's important. It's just hard to do. And when we look at other people, we support it. So if we're worried, if we're feeling that we might be shamed for taking some time to ourselves, that's not so, at least not by the other women in our lives.
Yep. And I love all the metaphors. Of course, we've all heard about the oxygen mask. You have to put it on yourself first. You can't drive a car without fuel. So maintaining these self-investment practices are not selfish. It's an act of actually improving our ability to care. And when it starts to feel selfish, we're just not looking at the long game. Taking time for our physical and mental health makes us more capable for everyone else. And I love that stat that you just shared, that 89% of women said that they look at another woman who is investing in self-care as someone who knows what's important with good self-esteem. I mean, so why can't we give ourselves that grace?
I know we respect others, but we're not respecting ourselves.
Right. The good news is, though, that people in general, women still have a long way to go, but people in general are starting to prioritize this need more, which leads us into Condé Nast's #1 travel trend. In their December 2022 issue, Condé Nast ranked transformative retreats as the #1 trend for 2023. As people started to express their need to become their best self or reach their full potential, transformative retreats became a popular tool to help people achieve this. The article states, and I'll read this: after a year of travel for fun, relaxation, and reunion post-pandemic, 2023 will be the year we travel for personal betterment. Whether you're seeking to overcome grief, identity, or identify your life's mission, or discover what your body is physically capable, there's a transformative retreat out there that's catering to you.
Yes, and that's true. I had a similar experience when I went on a retreat, and that kind of led us to start our business. But it was mid-pandemic. It was before vaccines were available, and I went on a retreat. It was a yoga retreat, but I had a role as leading some storytelling discussions and workshops. And I just offered to work with anybody that wanted to practice telling their own story. And I ended up working with 2 really interesting, wonderful women. And It did change their lives. They both had big things. Everyone on the retreat actually had kind of big things going on in their lives. But their ability to tell their own story really opened up their futures for them. That it just kind of allowed them to inhabit who they were, to move through a difficult time, and also to share with other very important people in their lives what they were going through. So, it made me feel like there is such power in going away, in unplugging from your regular life, going someplace where you're not making dinner, making the plans, that you're just there. You're really there. You're really present. You're connecting with other people on your own terms. You're engaging or not, it might just be relaxation and letting go. But in that state of letting go, you're more open to the other people there. And that was kind of, in our case, we kind of enhanced each other and gave each other space and gave each other a listening ear and support. And it was wonderful. And I thought more people need this, and we can provide it. So
Yep.
that's what encouraged me.
Yeah, I was so honored when you called. So impressed, first of all, that you wanted to make your mission helping other women. Something that certainly resonates with me. Do you want to explain why we chose to focus on creating retreats specifically?
Well, like I said, I think we're most able to do our best work if we can be fully present. So we don't have these other obligations and commitments that are interrupting us or steering our thoughts away. So that's one thing. It's also, if you do some of the work, to have quiet time for reflection and to let things sink in is another aspect of going away somewhere. And I think bonding with other people, I'm all about collaboration. And so to be in the presence of other people that want to do the same work, that are there making the same investment in themselves, makes them more able to be empathetic, to help, to support, to listen, to guide. So I think retreats kind of include all of that stuff. We can do it here and there in snippets, on Zoom calls, on a walk with a friend. We can certainly do those things, but that is a little bit more of a staccato approach instead of like a longer time together, which has longer lasting change faster. So it's a little bit of a jump start, I think, to be able to go away. And I know it is a bit of a luxury to be able to go away, but again, as we talk about in self-investment, I think people are worth it if they have an idea of what they want to work on or change.
Yep. We've been really intentional about making sure our retreats include all of the levels of self-investment that you were talking about. So time to unplug, as you said, and be away from obligations, be away from having to figure out what's next or what's for dinner. We allow time for your mind and your body to wander, and relax and wonder. And when's the last time anyone really had that? And again, some of the other levels we talked about include healthy practices like yoga and hiking, which are certainly incorporated into most retreats. But then we also, in doing our research, found that some of the best retreats will also be experiential and inspirational. They'll encourage you to look at situations in a different way and introduce you to people who have been successful in making significant changes. You also talked about. I
also think that retreats let you combine some of these things. So like you talked about hiking, but one thing we've done is silent hiking. So we, may give a prompt, we may stop and talk, we may be letting our minds go through this quiet time in the company of others while we're walking, while we're moving our bodies in nature. So it's a way to kind of add all of these components to an experience. Yes, it is experiential, and that's different than like a coaching session on Zoom. This is very experiential, and that's part of what a retreat is.
Yeah. You talked about the collaborative nature of retreats, and there's so much value from having an outsider's point of view and someone who can come up with suggestions that's not emotionally attached to the issue. And then the sense of community and ongoing support that comes from this group of like-minded women is just motivating in and of itself. Right. Yeah, reminds me of one thing that Ginny said again in our reunion. So let me share that. One sec.
I thought it was going to be very introspective, like taking personality tests about myself and learning about me, but I learned so much about myself by listening to other people who were and were not like me.
So again, sometimes they say it even better than we
Right.
can say it.
Right.
I know we've talked a lot about these benefits and why we feel retreats are such an important tool. But we did want to share with you some of these clips from past participants so you can hear it from them directly. So while I'm teeing that up, Lisa, anything else that you want to share?
I mean, I think that people have to just look inside themselves and see, what they're ready for and when. I mean, like we said, little dipping your toes into this and allowing yourself to feel comfortable can just be a walk with a friend or just some time, to sit by yourself in the morning with your tea, just little pockets of space. I think little pockets of space to quiet our mind is such a good place to start.
Yep. Let me share this. Quick clip, one of two.
It is an opportunity to look inside yourself, to reflect, and to try and figure out, like, what do you want? What do you need? What makes you happy? And I think that those insights and learnings can help you all the time. What you don't have to be going through a transition. You just help you live better. I mean, every day you have transitions, right? And maybe the retreat, maybe that work will inspire you to make a transition or to start planning one.
Well said. Lynn, you nodded as well.
I just think, like Lexi said, I mean, all the things that we did and we talked about, are something that could inspire you, into a transition. I don't think you needed to be going through big life transitions, although I will say most people in our age group, although I have kids older than yours, are going through a lot. It's hard. It's hard to be a middle-aged woman. I mean, it just is. There is so much. And being a woman alone, there's just a lot. And then the kids and the husband, it's a lot.
I think that's something we can all relate to.
Yeah.
And then Lynn went on to share her big aha moment, which is what feeds Lisa and my soul. So let me share that.
I just feel like I shed all this expectations and all the stuff off my shoulders and my back and everything. And that to me was hugely impactful. And not only did I make it to the top of the hill and I was still fine, but I had this huge aha moment. And I loved that. And actually, when we went back, we had free time and I took a bath and climbed into my bed and took a nap, which I never, ever get to do. And that was also so amazing because I let myself actually do that, which I don't normally.
I love that clip because everyone can identify with it. And you saw everyone nodding and jaw drops, just the fact that she was able to have a bath and a nap. Okay, if we're talking about basics of self-care, start with a bath and a nap.
Yeah, it makes me miss our past participants.
I know.
So as many of our listeners know, at Encore Retreats, we are huge proponents of taking action, not just learning and reflecting, but actually doing. So at the end of all these community conversations, we ask our guests to give us 3 actions that you can take tomorrow to get started in self-investing. So Lisa, it's your turn. What are your 3 actions?
So like I said a little bit ago, just allow yourself some space. So whether that's a walk by yourself to think, a walk with a friend, to connect and to maybe connect on a deeper level. So just do one thing, whether it's just a walk by yourself or your walk with a friend. And if you do go with a friend, I would challenge you to just allow yourself a little vulnerability. So that means maybe taking one subject or one thing that you've thought about, maybe that you want to change, maybe that you want to address, and get out of your comfort zone a little bit to share that with your friend. So it's just creating vulnerability, which always leads to a deeper connection. And you'll be surprised, maybe they will reciprocate with something that's a little personal to them, and it will go from there, and you will feel supported. And all of a sudden you'll have kind of a nice supportive person in your midst, and you can go for walks a couple times a week. So that's two. And then I would say, because we found that getting away is so impactful, I would say if it's available to you, get away. Even if it's an afternoon, if it's a day, if it's a weekend, if it's a retreat, it could be ours, it could be others, but just allow yourself that time to do some change, do some work on your own psyche. Allow yourself that breathing room to see if there is something that you want to adjust. We had retreat participants saying they actually weren't sure why they came. They knew just something was off a little bit, and they thought that they would kind of uncover it while they were there, and they did. So I think just that inkling that maybe you're in need of a little bit of a tune-up, a little bit of an awareness, something insightful, that would help. So we are hosting a retreat in Virginia in the beginning of September 6th through 10th in Warm Springs. And we'll be focusing on this type of self-reflection, recharging, refocusing, recommitting as we head into, a busy part of the year starting in September. We have a few spots still open. If you're interested, please let us know. We'll send out our calendar link with this recording, and you can schedule a time just to chat with us. Or if you have questions now, we're happy to answer them. But we do, encourage you to do something for yourself.
Yep. Lisa, thank you for so articulately explaining why we're passionate about retreats and women taking time to invest in themselves. And to our listeners who have joined us tonight, thank you. We hope you've learned something and are now inspired to take care of yourself the way you take care of others. We'll see you soon.